Have you ever watched something choose to die? Not from illness, not from age, but from a broken heart so shattered that breathing itself becomes unbearable? Bailey had been lying in that shelter cage for 11 days without eating. 11 days of turning his graying muzzle away from every hand that tried to save him. The veterinarians whispered what everyone already knew. When a dog stops fighting, when those eyes go distant and empty, you're witnessing a soul that's given up on humanity altogether. They'd scheduled his final appointment. Tomorrow, they'd help him let go. But the universe had other plans. Because sometimes, a 16-month-old toddler who doesn't understand the word impossible can rewrite the ending everyone thought was already written. This is the story of how pure, fearless love crawled into a cage of death and refused to let go until life came flooding back. They'd given him 3 days to live, not because of disease, because Bailey had simply stopped wanting to exist. The old golden retriever lay in cage 17 like a ghost already halfway gone, his body present, but his spirit floating somewhere unreachable. 11 days without food. 11 days of turning away from every plea, every desperate attempt to make him remember that life was worth living. The shelter workers whispered about him in hushed voices. He's choosing to go, they said. The surveillance footage had captured it. His owner shoving him out on a highway, the car door slamming, Bailey chasing until his legs gave out on hot asphalt. He'd waited there for 2 days, tail wagging at every passing car. Until it stopped wagging altogether. Until hope became just another thing humans had stolen from him. Sarah couldn't accept it. Every morning at 6 a.m., the 23-year-old volunteer would sit on cold concrete beside his cage. "Bailey, please. Somebody's coming for you." But his eyes looked right through her to some distant memory she couldn't reach. His breathing had become a rattle, wet, labored, the sound of a body shutting down. His once magnificent coat hung loose over jutting bones. Yesterday, she'd pressed her face against his side and felt his heart beating so slowly, like it was asking permission to stop. She'd counted the beats. 20 seconds between each one. Too slow. Too ready to quit. She whispered prayers into his fur, but Bailey's eyes stayed empty. Dr. Martinez found her there this morning, sobbing into Bailey's fur. "Sarah," he said softly, his voice cracking. "Tomorrow. We can't let him suffer anymore." The appointment was set. 9 a.m. The needle that would stop that struggling heart. She kissed Bailey's head, his ears were ice cold, his nose dry and cracked, and whispered, "I'm so sorry we couldn't save you." As she stood to leave, vision blurred with tears, she heard it. Tires on gravel outside. A minivan door sliding open. A toddler's shriek of pure joy. "Doggy." Sarah's breath caught. She couldn't know that the universe had just sent the one soul innocent enough to speak Bailey's language. She couldn't know that sometimes miracles arrive in light-up sneakers. Emma didn't ask permission. The moment her mother Rachel cracked open that van door, the 16-month-old exploded into motion. Little legs churning, purple dress flying, headed straight for the building like she'd been summoned. "Emma, stop!" Rachel's scream cut through the air, but toddlers don't understand stop. They don't understand dying or things that can't be fixed. Emma's light-up sneakers lit up the parking lot. Pink, blue, as she ran faster than Rachel had ever seen her move. Through the shelter's front door before Rachel's hands could catch her. Past the adoption desk. Straight into the back hallway where the air smelled like heartbreak and last chances running out. This was the forgotten wing, where they kept the dogs who'd stopped being adoptable. Too old, too sick, too damaged. Emma moved like a heat-seeking missile, ignoring every barking dog. She stopped at cage 17. Just stopped, like she'd been pulled there by invisible strings. She dropped to her knees, tiny hands gripping the bars, face pressed between the metal. "Doggy," she breathed, and the word came out like a prayer. Inside, Bailey lay motionless, a skeleton wrapped in golden fur. Sarah stood frozen, Dr. Martinez's euthanasia appointment card clutched in her hand. Tomorrow's date. Tomorrow's mercy. Rachel caught up gasping, reaching for her daughter. "Emma, baby, no, we have to go." But Emma wasn't listening. She pressed her cheek against the cage bars and made a sound. Not quite a word, not quite a song, something ancient that bypassed language entirely. A hum. A melody that reaches into dark places and says you're not alone anymore. And Bailey moved. God help them all, Bailey moved. His head lifted off those paws, just an inch, but it was movement where there'd been nothing but surrender for 11 days. His dulled amber eyes found the toddler's face. Found those bright, believing eyes that hadn't learned that some things can't be saved. Emma smiled at a dying dog like he was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. And in that impossible second, the universe opened just enough for something sacred to slip through. "We can't save him." Rachel said it out loud, needing reality to snap back into place. "He's dying, Emma. He's too sick. This is insane." She couldn't finish because Emma had started singing. That tuneless, fearless melody toddlers make when they're convinced everything broken can be fixed with love. Her little voice bounced off concrete walls, pure and unafraid. And Bailey's tail moved. After 11 days of choosing death, that golden tail swept across concrete. Once, twice, 3 times. Dr. Martinez made a sound like he'd been punched. Sarah's sob came out as a laugh, hysterical and full of impossible hope. "Oh my God, he's responding. Open it." The words left Rachel's mouth before her brain caught up. Sarah's hands shook so violently she could barely work the lock, metal scraping metal. The cage door swung open with a creak that sounded like a coffin lid being pried back. Emma didn't wait. She crawled inside on hands and knees, moving toward Bailey like gravity itself was pulling her forward. Rachel's every instinct screamed, "Stop this." Dogs bite. Sick dogs are unpredictable. Dying dogs have nothing left to lose. But she couldn't move, could only watch as Emma reached Bailey, threw her tiny arms around his skeletal neck and squeezed. Hard. The kind of hug that says you're not allowed to leave, you're mine now. Bailey's body went rigid, every muscle locked. For one horrible second Rachel thought he might snap. But then the old dog melted. His massive head dropped onto Emma's shoulder like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His body sagged against her, all that tension draining out in one long, shuddering breath. And Emma reached into her backpack, still holding Bailey, and pulled out her afternoon snack. Goldfish crackers in a plastic bag. She held one up to Bailey's mouth with a smile that could resurrect the dead. "Eat, doggy," she commanded with all the authority of 16 months on Earth. "Eat now." Her voice was so certain, so absolutely sure he would obey. And in the space between one heartbeat and the next, Bailey opened his mouth. The cracker disappeared. That single crunch detonated through the shelter like a bomb. Sarah hit the floor, knees cracking against concrete, body shaking with sobs that had been building for 11 days. Dr. Martinez grabbed the cage bars to stay upright, his medical degree suddenly meaningless. Rachel stood paralyzed, watching her toddler hand feed a dying dog back to life. "More, doggy. Eat," Emma commanded, holding up another cracker, her voice filled with bossy joy. And Bailey obeyed. His jaw moved. Slow, painful, like each chew was a war against every instinct telling him to give up. But he kept going, kept choosing life because this tiny human believed he should. "This isn't possible." Dr. Martinez's voice came out strangled. "I checked him this morning. His vitals were failing. This dog was actively dying." But dying wasn't in Emma's vocabulary. She dumped the entire bag of goldfish onto concrete, chattering away like she was at a picnic. "Yummy. You eat more." Bailey watched her with confusion, like he couldn't remember how he'd gone from waiting for death to sitting with this tiny human who smelled like apple juice and innocence. His nose nudged her hand. Emma shrieked with delight and launched herself at him, arms wrapping around his skeletal frame. Bailey didn't snap, didn't growl. His massive head dropped onto Emma's shoulder and stayed there, heavy and warm and alive. Emma patted his back like she was burping a baby. "It's okay, doggy. You are safe. You mine." Bailey's tail started wagging. Real wagging. Not just movement, joy. His whole back end moving, sweeping side to side, gaining momentum. Dr. Martinez was already on his phone, canceling tomorrow's appointment, his voice shaking as he explained something had happened. Rachel felt her world tilting sideways. "Mama." Emma looked up, eyes shining like stars. "Doggy come home." The question punched through Rachel's chest. She looked at Bailey, really looked, and saw what Emma saw. Not a dying dog. A soul who'd given up until someone too small to understand impossible had told him he mattered. Bailey couldn't walk. His legs gave out the moment they tried lifting him from the van, muscles atrophied from 11 days of lying still. He collapsed, hitting pavement hard. Rachel's heart stopped. "No, please, not now." But Emma was already on the ground beside him, her little hands on his face. "Up, doggy. We home now. You can do it." And Bailey tried again. He shook. He trembled, every muscle screaming. But he stood, because Emma believed he could. 15 feet to the front door. Might as well have been 15 miles. Bailey made it 5 feet and stopped, sides heaving, legs quaking. Emma dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around his neck. "You so brave. You the bravest doggy in the whole world." Her voice was muffled but certain, and Bailey took another step. Then another. Because a 16-month-old had just told him he was brave. They reached the door one agonizing step at a time. Emma pushed it open with both hands. "Look, doggy. Our house. Your house now." The living room must have looked like heaven. Soft carpet instead of cold concrete. Sunlight streaming through windows. The smell of safety. Bailey stood in the doorway, and Rachel saw it happen. Saw the exact moment something shifted behind those amber eyes. Recognition. Understanding. The realization that this wasn't temporary. That this tiny human meant what she'd promised. He took a deep breath and walked inside. Not stumbling anymore. Walking. Like coming home had given him back pieces of himself he'd thought were gone forever. Emma ran to the kitchen, returning with her baby blanket. The one she'd had since birth. The one she slept with every single night. She draped it over Bailey's back with ceremonial gentleness. "For you. So, you are not cold anymore. So, you did not scare anymore. You family now." Bailey licked her face, long slow licks that made Emma giggle so hard she fell backward onto carpet. Bailey lay down beside her. Not in defeat. In choice. In peace. Emma curled into his side, her hand finding his paw, wrapping around it like a promise she intended to keep forever. Rachel's phone buzzed. Her husband. "What's the emergency? Are you okay?" She looked at her daughter asleep against a dog who'd been dying this morning, both breathing in sync, both whole, both saved. Her fingers moved across the screen. "We have a dog now. I think he's the one who rescued us. Sometimes the ones we save are actually saving us. Sometimes love doesn't ask permission. It just shows up in light-up sneakers and refuses to let death win." Emma didn't save Bailey because she understood death. She saved him precisely because she didn't. She saw a soul that deserved to be loved when everyone else saw a lost cause. And Bailey? He returned from the abyss because a small human being believed he deserved to stay. That's the miracle. Sometimes, the most broken among us are waiting for just one person who refuses to see us as broken. How many Baileys are in shelters right now, their hearts stopping not because of illness, but because of abandonment? How many souls around you are one act of fearless love away from choosing life again? Maybe you are that person. Maybe your compassion is someone's second chance. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notifications, because every day we bring you real stories of redemption, hope, and the kind of love that refuses to give up. Because in the end, we all need to believe it's never too late. Love always finds a way. And sometimes the smallest hands hold the greatest power to heal.